Is it getting harder to be pro-life these days with the advent of safe spaces in universities and the rise and the crackdown on prayer vigils outside abortion clinics? Today we're joined by a number of young people who are also pro-life. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Sancta Familia.
Thank you. And I'm seeing by your t-shirts, you're called Project Truth. What is Project Truth?
Well, Project Truth is a youth initiative of SPUC Scotland. It's the main youth initiative that we do, and we take young people all around Scotland and we do a roadshow in the summer, visit different towns and cities, and we bring the pro-life message to the streets in a fun and vibrant way.
Yeah, so you've been out a few times this last 3 years. How was your third year out? You've been...
Well, it's been running for 5 years, yeah.
5 years, wow. But you're growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, it's getting bigger. It's getting harder to manage. There's too many of them.
Where did you go, for example? Where did you go?
All over, so as far up north as Aberdeen and then in Glasgow as well.
Perth.
Dundee.
Yeah.
Stirling.
Motherwell.
Coquelin was good.
Yeah, Motherwell was really good.
Yeah.
So positive, always positive there.
But what kind of reactions do you get from people? Obviously, it's a very sensitive topic. You know, abortion affects, you know, I don't know the exact figures, but 1/3 of people, 2/3 of people in Scotland.
Yeah.
So how does that message be received?
It's definitely mixed. I'd say you're surprised by how positive people are, definitely, and as well, like you're saying, like how many people it's impacted their life. But it is nice for people to just see that there are people actually fighting for this and talking about it. Even for people who've had like miscarriages or whatever, it's just like we're people that they can come over and talk to about it, because it is definitely something in society that no one really wants to speak about. It as the elephant in the room. So I think that was a really good thing for people to see.
Why do you think that people who generally are pro-life get such a bad name in the media? What is the reason for that?
I think it's just habit more than anything, I suppose. Pro-life people are labelled in a certain way, and for us to be out in the streets, it's one thing people they can't believe. Oh, actually, you know, you're normal and nice and you know, like just being decent to people. The big reaction I always get, people say, "Oh, I'm pro-choice," and I say, "Oh, that's really interesting." And please tell me, I'd like to know, where does your choice begin and end? And then they're like, so first trimester, second trimester, how about full term? Like, oh no, not full term. Like, well, you know, could I ask you, why do you want to control a woman's body? And you're like, I don't. And you're like, well, you know, it's bodily autonomy is very funny that way. It's either baby still inside the third trimester as in the first trimester. So, you know, you're either for it all or not. You know, when is abortion okay, or when are you human? And then like it's like the little pennies keep dropping, and they don't actually get a chance to talk about it. You know, it's simply I'm pro-choice, and it's just been in the media since we were very young. Yeah. But what does that mean? And then put it back on them, and it's amazing what you get back out of them. And they go on 10 week, 8 week, 5 week. You know, the weeks disappear very quickly.
You often hear online that, you know, if you're a man, you cannot talk about this issue because men apparently are not affected by abortion in any way. But what would you say to people? You're a woman, evidently. So what would you say? What would you say? What would you say to a woman, for example, who generally is pro-choice and would say that men have no right to talk about this issue?
I think you mentioned it's a human rights issue. It's regardless of who can have children. My sister once explained it. She said, I'm not Jewish, but I can tell you the Holocaust was wrong. I'm not Syrian, but bombing civilians in Syria is wrong. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, men can't have babies, but they can say killing babies is wrong.
Yeah, so that's definitely true. I feel that, you know, you get that sort of stifled environment where people are kind of afraid now to talk about the basic truths of different debates. Yeah. So your project is called Project Truth, which is putting that truth in the middle of the street. What makes that different, that movement? What is your sole aim of your movement? Because you get 40 Days for Life, you've got Spark, you've got other agencies. What makes Project Truth different?
We're sort of bringing that out there on the streets, and we're meeting people where they are, and the whole kind of thing why we do it is because we want to open up the line of conversation with people, and we want to, you know, like you said, the media have a different view of what pro-life means, so we want to actually show people. And it's, you know, surprising, you meet a lot of people who would identify as pro-choice, but you can have a really good conversation with them, and some of the best conversations are like that, and maybe they don't agree with you in every point when they leave, but what they've seen from that is actually that, you know, you're a decent person. And a lot of the time as well is like, it doesn't matter what you say to somebody, it's the way that you say it, and it's how you made them feel when they heard it. So they might not remember a thing that you've said, but they'll remember actually that was a good conversation I had with that person. So that's partly, you know, the reason why we do it. And the other reason, it's an all-encompassing mission really, because we're not only just sort of talking about the development of the baby, and we focus on the first 10 weeks of pregnancy because that's when most abortions take place in Scotland, but we're also aiming to help people who are in a crisis pregnancy situation. We know where to find them help, we can talk to them about that, and also people who are struggling after abortions, which is, you know, maybe one of the guys can tell you about that, but we had a lot of conversations with people who had abortions who were just opening up in the middle of the street. So we know it's something that people need to talk about, you know, and they come across you, they don't leave the house in the morning thinking they're going to be talking about that, but they find you, and actually it can be healing for them as well.
Have you had any challenges to your presence anywhere in the streets, for example, or what reason have you had?
Well, on the last day we had quite a bad guy come over. Not a bad guy, just he was
challenging.
a challenging guy. And he came over and actually ripped the signs down and was like really angry about it.
This was the last day?
Yeah, so I know, I was thinking it was only with like half an hour to go as well. But like, as we're saying, it is for a lot of people, it's the first time they're hearing this and having to actually confront the issue, and so that was definitely something challenging for me to see how angry people are about it, when I know the people that I was doing it with are all amazing, lovely people, but people would still just come over and assume things about you and assume what you're doing, and you know, they have that mantra of it's a woman's body, it's a woman's choice, and they really aren't willing to actually hear anything beyond that, and so in a lot of cases that was what we found. Like, people actually didn't really want to talk about it, they just wanted to say this is wrong, abortion's good, I'm not listening to you, and that's that, and would walk away, you know. So throughout the week that could kind of be a challenging thing, but for one of those cases there was like 5 people that were like, this is amazing. So, and you know, for those people who were maybe like shut down to what we were saying, you never know like what you said will, like, how that will affect them in the future, because my sister said that to her. I texted her being like, I just don't know if I can do this, it's so scary, but she said like, think of like, you could be saving one person's life by doing this, you know. So like 5 years down the line I could have spoken to a girl who will be in a crisis pregnancy, you know, and that means the world to me, that I could maybe be that one voice for her that would change her mind, you know. So, for everyone.
Talk more about the details. How do you operate? You know, if I was to encapsulate what Project Truth does, what sort of information do you give out to the public, for example?
Well, we usually start off with like leaflets, so basically talking about all of the things that a baby has within the first 10 weeks of pregnancy, and then we also have the crisis pregnancy helpline at the bottom, along with the ARCH helpline for people recovering after an abortion as well. So we have those, and we have questionnaires to sort of get people talking. It's a good conversation starter to try and see what the views are, and then say, well, why do you think that's the case, and did you know this about the current abortion laws and things like that. And we also had cards for the helplines as well, and a petition to say no to DIY abortions. So the government's brought in that the second medical abortion pill can be taken at home, and we wanted to find out what people actually think about this, sort of say, well, is it really a step forward for women or a step backwards? You know, if it isn't in a medical setting, then you can't guarantee that the woman's going to take it in her house, or that her house is a safe place for it to be taken as well. So we don't want to lose both lives. We'd rather save both, but if we can only...
So when you brought up the discussion about the abortion at home, what was the kind of general response to people in the streets? A lot of people don't know about it, just accept it as kind of, well, that's what's going to happen.
People generally found it absolutely disgusting, I'm going to be honest. Even people who were completely against our position, the thought of allowing a woman to take that pill and have that abortion in her own home with no one around possibly, or with children in the next room, or any sort of situation like that, it just struck everyone as really, really dangerous. Most people, even if you didn't have like a change of mind in their opinion, they were very much like, I'll sign that petition, this is terrible, this should not be happening in Scotland, you know, this is wrong, and this is very scary for women. That's
key, it's getting the truth out there. And a lot of people dismiss your group and other pro-lifers because they say it's based on religious conviction. So are you a religious group in any way? Are you affiliated in religious groups?
No, and it's funny, the only time religion or God is mentioned, like I found it was actually someone who has a different opinion than you. I mean, someone who identifies as being very pro-choice or atheist, or say, oh, you're just a religious group. I was like, I haven't mentioned God at all. And one thing we had there this year, which was different, was we had a few tablets that showed little video clips. One was of the moment of conception, when one of 400 million male sperm cells joins with one of 2 million female egg cells, and so 400 million could be as an average by a guy, could be a super guy, I mean also super, and then there's 2 million eggs in the woman's system, so 2 million by 400 million, that's the chance of us being here, and that's 800 trillion to 1. And scientists found there's a beautiful bright flash of light at that moment of conception. So it showed us to this guy, and there's this one atheist guy, he goes, oh well, that doesn't mean, I know, it doesn't mean much, but and he's trying to say, but there's no all-knowing being telling us what to do. I'm like, well, you're the one to talk about God. I'm just talking about this is when you become you, as your full human DNA is present at that moment. You're human at that moment. You're a human being.
And it's scientific. You don't, we say that so often. You don't even need God to prove that this is wrong. And two girls were saying that we hate when people bring in religion, and I was like, well, you don't even need to. It's the stages of development is scientific.
So one, I think the atheist guy I was chatting to that conversation, he was saying, oh, there's no life after death. I'm like, well, you're the one who's talking about, And I said, but anyway, just on that, I said, it's interesting. I would throw in, I said, it was anyone who's, if you're on YouTube and people say had life after death experiences, and they all come back having seen something. There's no one on YouTube saying they've come back and saw nothing. And he was like, oh,
Well, so that is good though. You're building a consensus amongst people of all religions and none, which is really key for this debate. But some of the other men are here. Why did you choose to join, for example?
Why did I choose to join? Yeah. Well, I mean, the pro-life cause is something that's always sort of made a lot of sense to me. And again, it's taking God completely out of the equation, just looking at it as an objective issue. I'd always kind of, for this sort of, I don't want to use the word stigma, but the way I'd kind of not wanted to get directly involved, because it's kind of I was thinking maybe negative reactions other people might have and stuff. But I don't know, maybe just get a bit old, a bit more mature. I definitely done a bit more research into it when I started uni, researching it through philosophy and stuff like that. And I just kind of felt a bit of responsibility to get out there and start saying what I think is the right way to think about the issue.
Good for you. Excellent.
Story.
And looking towards the future of it, what do you think that the future is going to hold for Project Truth and the wider pro-life movement, for example?
I personally feel that it's going to get bigger because we've got access to social media and a lot of stuff online, so people can have a look for themselves as opposed to just listen to the media.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. When you were here last year, there was 8 of you. Louise was destined to try and break that record and break it a new set. I think she's done that very, very well. There's 9 of you here today, I think.
Well, 10 if you include my mother there.
Well, Mom, thank you very much. Well, 9. But anyway, thanks for coming, very much appreciate it, and thanks for everything you do, because we are a Catholic media organisation. You are not a Catholic organisation, but you also do, by extension, the work of the church, in a sense, by promoting gospel values, which is pro-life. So thanks very much, and God bless everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for joining us once again on Church Chat, and we'll hope to see you next time live at the Sancta Familia studios in Moss End. Good night.